I just got home from a rough job interview and realised my dress had split open a few inches along the back seam, completely exposing my thong-clad buttocks. What's the worst interview you've ever had? Edit, no pics, Reddit, Jesus, come on. Had to do a test for one interview, asked to put my name, spelt it wrong. Are you an assertive person? Yeah, I think so. 30 years ago, and I still think about it. My first ever interview, she asked my hobbies. I said napping. Slipped on the stairs, walking to the interview room and kicked the interviewer in the butt. You seem like a really positive person. I was once asked my thoughts on diversity in the workplace. Problem is, I misheard and thought they asked my opinion on adversity, in which I went on to give me reasons why. Diversity? I don't believe it should exist in the workplace, no. Do you mind if I get a glass of sex? I mean, water, oh God. First question of the interview. You got a job, which I heard as, you got the job. Oh, thanks. Didn't get the job. Do you like it? I misinterpreted for, do you like dick? And repeated what I thought I heard. Whole interview afterwards was awkward. What are your strengths? Do you mean if I can lift things? Figured it out after I left and cried. My first interview was at a movie theatre. A dude hit me with the, what are your weaknesses question. I'd never heard it before. I then sit in silence for a solid 25 seconds before, in an attempt to break the silence, I mutter, oh, I'm trying to think of the worst one. When I show up, she tells me, you a month late. My interview had gone well. Then at the end, she reached behind me to open the doors. It was a tiny office and I thought she was giving me a hug, so I went for it. It was really awkward and she didn't hug back. And what would you say your greatest assets are? I don't know what an asset is. I think that concludes this interview. Instead of saying spread my wings, I said spread my legs. Tell us a story about a time you had to make a quick decision. 100% unexpected. There was nothing in my brain. I made up a story about seeing a rabid dog and getting my father to put it down when I was a child. Knocked an entire carafe of ice water over the interview panel. Wore 2 different shoes to an interview at a fashion magazine. I called the interviewer by the wrong name. Instead of calling her Ms. Shader Jose, I called her, good morning, you must be Ms. Cheddar Horse. I accidentally handed the interviewer my medical marijuana card instead of my guard card. Passes vibe check. Fuck, I shouldn't have said that, should I? No, and you shouldn't have said that either. During the interview, I decided the best adjective to describe my last job was, and I quote, a total boner. Interviewer asked what I looked for in a manager. Got nervous because she was the manager, started rambling and ended with, just not like a super crazy Nazi. Now, if you could be any animal, what would you be? A cat? I'm so lazy. Seriously though, what a shit question. Similar to a different Redditor, I was asked, what do you think is your spirit animal? I answered, an elephant. Still, the girl sitting next to me panicked and answered, Britney Spears. In my first ever interview at a printers/camera shop, I was asked to bring a chair into the office to sit on from outside in the corridor. I was so nervous that when it ended, I picked the chair up to leave and the man said, no, you can leave it here. And I was like, okay. And I took it outside with me anyway. I once got a call back to inform me they got my resume and cover letter, but will not be moving forward. Then told me the reason was my lack of attention to detail. Guy then points out, instead of signing my cover letter sincerely, it was auto-corrected to sinisterly. A friend of mine had a great interview, was pretty confident that they were going to offer him the job. After it was done, he shook their hands and went to leave, except he took the wrong door and walked into the closet instead of out the exit. He was so embarrassed to admit his mistake that he stayed in there. The longer he was in there, the harder it was to leave. I mean, he knew he was in the closet. His interviewers knew he was in the closet. He was in there 20 minutes before he sheepishly emerged. Lady had just sanitized her hands and they weren't dry yet. Okay, well, just don't mention, oh, that was a creamy handshake. And whilst we're on the etiquette of handshaking, was told the hiring manager was a retired Marine, so to look him in the eye and give him a strong handshake. Being nervous, I was overzealous and jammed his thumb into my palm, spraining it. He asked his assistant to get him an ice pack and he iced it while I spoke. He was silent except for painful sighs, causing my nerves to intensify, which made my throat go bone dry and lose my voice. He brought me a glass of water, which just didn't help at all. Yeah, didn't get that job. No, didn't get that one. I said yes when they asked why they should hire me, loudly crying face emoji. Do you have any prior experience with kids? Well, I was one. My alarm went off. Samuel L. Jackson's voice spread through the room telling me to wake the fuck up. Started comparing myself to the Amish during an interview for a tech support position. Hi George, how are you doing today? Oh hi, my name's George. Oh wait. Back when I, as a nervous teen, was sitting in the office of the theme park manager. Most of the interview had gone really well, and she opened up time for me to ask her any questions I had. So how did you and your husband meet? No, not questions like that. I sat with my legs crossed for the duration of the interview. I didn't realise I lost all feeling / control of my right leg, and when I stood up, I fell to the floor. The manager helped me stand up, and I fell again. Ultimately, 2 workers helped carry me out like a wounded soldier. Also, it says here you're bilingual. Yes, that's right. Parlez-vous français? Si! I told an interview I spoke a little Arabic. She was fluent and asked me to say a sentence. I said, I like the meat. What's one word you would use to describe yourself? Probably ameliorific. Okay. I must admit, I'm not overly familiar with that word either. Oh, no. Manager who was interviewing me brought the person I'll be working with into the room to ask me some questions related to the position. Not only was this person his daughter, I had a one-night stand with her a year before. Not so much what I did during the interview, but what I read. Hiring someone for industrial sewer, drainage pipes work. What I showed up to interview for, industrial sewer, tailoring work. Felt like a complete tool. I made a 9/11 joke. At the end of the interview, they said, lovely to meet you, and I said, I love you too. Oh, I wouldn't call myself nice. A gnat or something flew up my nose, which caused me to shout, hey, what the fuck? Was near the end of my job interview, went to grab a pen to write down my hours. Took me a moment to realise I was trying to write with a tampon. Hey, how are you? Focusing so hard on the proper response, I choose the answer to a question never asked. Nothing. I threw up on the interviewer's desk. Just before I went in the room, I sneezed blood all over my white shirt. I told them I couldn't answer their questions, farted audibly out of stress, and thanked them for their time. No one shit their pants in this Ask Reddit thread yet, and odd. A friend of mine once sharted in the middle of a job interview. Edit. Oh wait, there it is. A friend of mine was being interviewed for a job at a restaurant. When asked who his role model was, he said Tyler Durden.
He was the guerrilla terrorist in the food service industry.
Do not watch. I cannot go when you watch.
Apart from seasoning the lobster bisque, he farted on meringue, sneezed on braised endive, and as for the cream of mushroom soup, well...
I caught fire. I went to a company to take a welding test. I was told by HR that it was a TIG welding position. Turns out it was for car, and the spark set my nice TIG welding shirt on fire. Yeah, I didn't get the job. Hi, how are you?
Good, yeah, and you?
I'm doing well. How are you? It still keeps me up at night. Having a job interview, and it was pointed out that my fly was down. The woman interviewing me laughed and said something like, oh, it's the little things we forget. And for some reason, I replied, yeah, if it was a snake, it would have bit me. She gave me this bizarre look, and I realised that she thought I was talking about my penis. What the hell were you talking about, if not your penis? Haven't you ever heard that expression? If it was a snake, it would have bit me. No. I just repeated the same words over and over. It's like I got caught in a loop. What word? Really? I went into my graphic design portfolio review with this as my computer background. On one of my first job interviews, I accidentally unhinged the sliding door when it was time to leave, blocking myself and the company's boss in the room until he managed to fix it. Not me, but my friend ate his interviewer's breakfast bagel before he came in the room. No idea how this happened. I'd been unemployed for a bit, was desperate for a new gig, had gained a lot of weight living off of fast food, so my good pants didn't fit me very well. I sat down in the interview chair as the person was walking around to their side of the desk, and the button of my pants popped off, did a one-hopper off of the desk and right into their coffee cup. Swish, and no clink at all. For the entire interview, they were sipping their coffee, and I was sitting there with my pants unbuttoned, waiting for the big reveal. Panicked, turned up a day too early. On the correct day, gave all the wrong answers to questions as the agency'd given me the wrong job description. Throat dried up, voice became similar to that of Baker from the Muppets, and also managed to imply that I was learning German to understand fetish websites. Funnily enough, I didn't get the job. Went to an assessment centre recently for a job at a very big IT/business company. I told the interviewer I'm nervous when I walked through the door. I said no when asked, do you have any further questions? I was very bossy and uncooperative in the group activity task. I applied for a job that was unrelated to my degree. I suggested cheating when doing a group activity task, which resulted in the assessors sighing loudly. Usually they don't interact with the candidates at all. And to top it off, I lost my train ticket, so I couldn't get reimbursed for the £100 journey fees. Mate, you are a complete fucking mess. In fact, I feel it might be useful if I gave you all some advice from my many years in the corporate world, interviewing and being being interviewed. When asked, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Say it's an important part of the role you're applying for, looking back on everything you've learned. Don't say, not here. When asked, what makes you so special? Here's a chance to really highlight whatever your strongest attribute is, alongside an example of where you showcase that. Don't say, I'm a virgin. What are some of your pet peeves? Perhaps say something like peers with negative attitudes, or meetings without an established schedule, yeah? Not spiders. Don't talk about strippers. If an office manager asks, now how would your friends describe you? They want to be hearing, like, organised, I'm always the one planning our days out, you know, rather than dangerous. Definitely do ask questions about the job, but if it's a professional environment, maybe refrain from asking how the vibes are there. And even if they're good, don't say something akin to, oh, pretty chill then, skull emoji. And when asking these questions, ask what a typical day looks like, rather than when can I start? Analog double finger guns emoji. If your interviewer has a gout-afflicted toe, consider not stepping on your interviewer's gout-afflicted toe. Oh, he howled in pain. And finally, try not to say, I don't actually want or need this job. I just really want to get out of the house and be around other people sometimes. Otherwise I'll go insane. And I don't know, blow up a library or something. Otherwise, you won't get the job. I got the job. Oh, I go show what I know.